Five, four, three, two, one.
Okay. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. Time for the Armis Inquisition yet again. Episode 213 on Sunday, the 2nd of January, 2022. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Indeed.
What a treat we've got tonight for our first podcast of the year, because we are joined by intrepid explorer of enigmatic ancient sites, Brian Forster. How are you doing, Brian?
Great. Pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for coming on, Brian.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this one for a bit. So, yeah, it's going to be good.
Oh, good.
Now, tell us, Brian, you probably have the best job in the world, one of the best jobs. How on earth did you get to this point? Has this been like a lifelong deal for you, or was there like a catalytic moment, a book you read, or an article, or a documentary? What set you off on this path?
Oh, it was a combination of things. I've been fascinated by ancient places, ancient mysteries since I was a kid. I used to look at National Geographic when I was very young, and the book Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock was a great catalyst in order to draw me into, I think he was the first one to go all over the world and see all of these mysterious places and connect, really connect the dots together. So he was very influential early on. And then my first trip to England, actually, when I was 16, I got to go see Stonehenge.
Nice.
So, quite a bit farther south than where you're located, but that was amazing. There wasn't even a fence around it at the time.
Yeah.
So we were able to walk right up to the stones and touch them and things, which is very different from the situation today. And my first trip to Peru was about 15 years ago, where I got to see the megalithic structures, up close and personal. And I was I was shocked by how incredibly complicated some of these megalithic sites are. So that's what really started me onto this path, I guess.
Yeah, when you say complicated, what do you mean by how complicated they are?
Well, the fact that the stones are in general megalithic, meaning very big, they interlock without any kind of clay or cement or mortar. They're literally interlocking with each other. And in some cases, the quarry for the stone is up to 55 kilometers away. So, transporting multi-ton blocks by the Inca would have been basically impossible. So that's what really drew my first queries and questions about who could have possibly done this kind of work.
Yeah, there's a sort of how did they do it, sort of, because we were told about when we sort of read in books or watch documentaries about these certain civilizations, we're led to believe that they had a certain level of sophistication and technology. And when you, like you mentioned, these massive polygonal masonry walls in Peru, and there's some of the strongest evidence for me that there's something weird going on, because, I mean, they just don't look real.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I think as well, it's the sort of the lack of evidence for sort of the machining and the tooling and stuff, and that's what kind of what the mainstream academia says is the issue, isn't it? With kind of being able to evidence how they were made, and so I suppose. So it's something I wanted to ask her when we get people on like yourself is, how do you think they actually did it? What's your kind of ideas as to sort of like the tools and the tooling that was potentially able to do that kind of thing?
Well, that's, of course, the most curious question, because the academics still insist it was copper chisels and stone hammers and wooden wedges, which are, at this point, completely ridiculous. So been going through different theories over the course of a number of years. And honestly, I think whoever was able to do this was able to literally manipulate matter, make it into a marshmallow consistency, transport it across the air, and set these blocks into place where they turned from a marshmallow material back into a hardened stone within maybe a thousandth of a second or something like that. I know it's a very much out of the box kind of explanation, but there is no normal explanation that you can come up with that can explain this kind of stuff. It's very surreal.
Well, those like giant polygonal blocks. Was it Nick in our Discord who sent us some photos? He shared some photos with us. He's just got back from your neck of the woods, and he shared some photos, some aerial photos of the Nazca lines, and then that famous wall he took a photo of with there's a little rope in front of it. Mm-hmm. And when you look at those big blocks, they almost look like they were a jelly, like they were a Jello mold. And you put one down, and then as you add weight on top of it, they almost look like they bow out.
Mm. Yeah. No, exactly. And there's a very famous green granite wall in the city of Cusco that's megalithic, and the consistency of the stone it doesn't look natural because, of course, quarrying from any stone from any quarry, you're going to get different bands of minerals and things in it. But the whole wall is completely consistent in terms of its color and shade of green. So it does look like it's been chemically or physically altered in order to get it into that state. You don't see any cracks. You don't see any, like I said, bands of shades of minerals in there. So again, that's why you really have to jump out of the box in order to try to explain how this possibly could have been done.
And have they found the quarry for that green granite? Do they know where it came from?
Yeah, actually, that one's not too far away. It's about a mile away on top of a hill. But unfortunately, during colonial Spanish times, they built churches and things on top of it. So there's no actual physical sign of where the quarry is today. But I know a number of experts who live in Cusco. They've all told me the same thing. But the basalt quarry, which is what most of Cusco is made from, that quarry is 55 kilometers to the south of the city. And since you only had llamas and alpacas as beasts of burden, there's no way that they could have used them to transport, multi-ton blocks like this. There's probably more than 1,000 or maybe 100,000 tons of stone in Cusco from that quarry that was transported, in pre-Inca times.
I suppose as well, is that wall you mentioned in Cusco, is that sort of ruins or is that sort of intact? So it was the potential for there to be actually more blocks there than are actually there now?
Well, it shows three ages and levels of construction. You have the megalithic at the bottom. Right. Then above it, you have Inca repair, because the Inca actually used any stone that was in the area to do the repair work, whereas the original stone wall was all from the same quarry. You can tell by the color of green. And then you have the Spanish colonial, of course, built on top of that.
Mm-hmm. So do the stones get smaller and softer as you go through time then?
Yeah, they get smaller. They don't fit as well. Like the Inca did a relatively good repair job. But then when you get to the Spanish actually covered everything in a kind of gypsum material in order, number one, to have a consistent look, and also to hide the poor craftsmanship that was underneath it. So
yeah, so I was just going to say as well, it kind of points towards I think of what I've heard about in Egypt as well, in that the kind of stonework and the masonry gets worse as you kind of move through time, essentially.
Well, exactly. Like in Egypt, of course, you have the Great Pyramids and all of that, massive complex at Giza, which also, of course, goes underground. Mm-hmm. And that's why we tend to start our Egypt tours in the south, because we spend 4 days on the Nile traveling north, and that's where you go through most of the dynastic construction, which is limestone and sandstone, which are relatively light or softish stone materials. And then when you get to the Giza Plateau, it's a completely different concept and approach of building.
Because they, in the Great Pyramid, they incorporated granite, didn't they? Graham Hancock talks in his book about the granite sort of long rectangular blocks that we used in the relieving chambers that were maybe 40, 50, 60 tons apiece.
Yeah, exactly. And all of that stone had to be transported from Aswan, which is at the very southern part of Egypt. So, of course, people are going to say they built barges and transported these giant blocks, on the Nile, but they can never explain where the wood came from to build the boats to start with. So, that's always what they say is they say, anything near the Nile, it was transported, including the 720-ton Colossi of Memnon, which is one piece of stone that actually came from Cairo because it's made of quartzite. It's not granite.
Quartzite? Now that sounds like a hard stone to work with.
Yeah, it's almost pure quartz. So it's 7 out of 10 on the hardness scale.
And how heavy are the Colossi?
Well, there's one that's still relatively intact, and it weighs 720 tons on a base, and it's one piece of stone on a base which is at least 350 tons.
It's just wild, isn't it?
And one wasn't enough. They had to do it twice.
You always want two, don't you? Especially if the first one's nice.
Yeah, the air and the spare.
Yeah,
I mean, the same goes for these giant obelisks. I mean, we're talking about Egypt now, so the same goes for the big obelisks that were transported. I mean, the Romans were pretty good at moving sort of big granite stuff, weren't they? But I guess we're talking like there's like a 2,500 year gap between.
Well, at least.
Going off the
the
what would you call it? The conventional chronology. That there's roughly 2,500 years between the Romans and the construction of the pyramids. I don't know. Would the conventional Egyptologists say that the dynastic Egyptians used the same techniques as the Romans did a couple of millennia later? Would that be their explanation?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, when you go to the Aswan Quarry, which is where there still is a 1,200-ton obelisk that was never actually completed, they show you this 10-minute video clip, that the Egyptian authorities made, where they show an animation of how the obelisks were, of course, cut from the quarry, moved to the Nile, moved onto this giant barge, transported to the location where they were supposed to go to, then dragged across the sand, I guess. And then they built like an enclosure. They would raise the obelisk up horizontally, fill the pit with sand, and then let the sand out. And then the obelisk was supposed to gently drop down, and then they would push it up and make it, stand up. And of course, as you said, the Romans were able to move. There's the famous one that's at Rome, St. Peter's in the Vatican. And of course, one was transported to France, one was transported to New York City. There's one in London called Cleopatra's Needle. There are more obelisks outside of Egypt than in Egypt at this point.
So the video you just described, they didn't show the Egyptians using cranes like the Romans would have done. No, they don't. That's a very good point. Because that's a huge sort of advantage as far as leverage. And, I'm pretty sure the ancient Greeks probably came up with similar sort of techniques. They were good at maths and geometry and stuff, weren't they? But as far as the Egyptian authorities, they don't seem to invoke some sort of fulcrum mechanical advantage other than just piling up loads of sand and dropping it in. Yeah, basically, I've never seen a diagram of the Egyptians using any kind of crane. And of course, what kind of
scale of crane would you have to be able to move something that was 400 or 500 or 1,000 tons? But that's, that's where their whole paradigm and story is falling apart, because they come up with these, what are becoming very corny answers to complicated questions. And I guess people are still gullible enough to believe them, but anybody who has half a brain can see that we're definitely missing major parts of our history that, Graham and I and a bunch of others are trying to unravel.
Mm. I remember years ago looking into what our modern cranes can do today. Mm-hmm. And as far as I can remember, the heaviest modern cranes could lift was about 1,000 tons. But these were shipping cranes, so they were at ports, and they were static, and they were just for lifting up a ship and dropping it down again. They weren't portable. They weren't portable. It really does make you think. I mean, it was done. It's been done. Someone did it, but there's just so many holes in our sort of conventional explanations, isn't there?
The methods missing, and the.
Yeah, it does make me think that there is something, like you mentioned about matter and how we think about matter, and I wonder about sonics.
Well, I was just going to say, about sort of sonics and sacred
geometry. Yeah, frequency.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, yeah.
Yeah, whether they had something, it's almost as if they had something not necessarily technologically advanced, that's the wrong word, but an advanced understanding of our reality, which enabled to create these feats. What does that sound plausible, Brian?
No, definitely. The more that we're looking at this, the more it looks like frequency and vibration were involved. Levitating or neutralizing gravity had to have been involved. Literally moving stone through the air, is very, very plausible, though we can't explain how it was done. But it's just the logistics and all the complicated aspects of trying to even replicate this today, which of course is what everybody, tries to say, like, could we do this today? Some of it, yes, some of it, no. Some of it is beyond our capability. And you're talking about it, the responsible cultures being of a Bronze Age level of technology. It's become really, the conventional stories become absolutely stupid at this point. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I make my videos, is to be in the field and show people, that I'm actually there filming this stuff. And, we've had thousands of people come with us on tours in Peru and Bolivia and Easter Island and Egypt and other places. And not one of them has been able to swallow the conventional story. They all leave at the end of a tour, with a very numbed mind because of so much information their brain is trying to process.
Go on.
No, I was just going to ask, as we were just talking about Egypt, I wanted to ask about, I'm probably going to absolutely butcher the name of this pyramid. Is it called Abu Rawash? And I kind of remember watching one of your videos about it, and you're kind of saying that it may have exploded or something like that.
Yeah, it's a very strange place. It is called Abu Rosh or Abu Rawash, and the two explanations for it are either it was a pyramid that was under construction that never got finished, or, well, actually three explanations, or it exploded, or it had been finished and then quarried. But it's in a location where you need very special permission. It costs, I think, $3,000 to be able to visit the site. Most of the most curious locations we go to now are places like that are off the beaten track and require a lot of paperwork and a lot of money to see. But when you have a big tour group with you, like 40 or 50 people, it's quite, it's not that expensive per person.
Why does it cost so much? Is it just because there's interest there and you see it as a...
Well, the previous head of Supreme Antiquities, Mr. Zahi Hawass, he was responsible for covering up a lot of these ancient places because you had to go through him personally in order to be able to visit them. So the new head of the Antiquities actually tuned into the idea that if you charge extra money, then you know, like $2,500 or $3,000 for a 2-hour visit, then you can get small groups to be able to see things that otherwise are not allowed. And so every time I go back to Egypt, there's another site that's been opened to us because of this special permission thing. And one thing I especially do when I'm there is when I film places I've never been to before, I never put any of it on social media while I'm in Egypt, because I have been told that some of the Egyptian authorities monitor my activity. So I make sure that I don't post anything major until I get back to Peru, and then, you know, they can't touch me. But there's a lot of control in Egypt over stuff like this. But the new head guy is good as compared to the people who have been in charge in the past. So good for us and for him.
Yeah.
Ben from Uncharted X was telling us about the labyrinth at Harare.
Yeah.
Have you had a visit there yet?
I've been there once. We're actually going back in March. So, you know, there's stories that there are like 3,000 rooms underground or something like that. But unfortunately, what happened is when they built the Aswan High Dam, the Soviets or the Russians did that. It caused a lot of flooding, like underground flooding. So there's no way to be able to access the labyrinth if it exists. There's a little pyramid that you can walk halfway down into. But then you're hit with a giant pool of water. So whether it's real or not, supposedly, I think it was Herodotus recorded that it existed like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to go back there for a second time. It's always, you know, most of these places I've been to many times, but places like Hawara are kind of off the beaten track. So it's something you save, you know, for a special day.
Yeah.
Just going back to the construction methods again, something I wanted to ask you about was the potential for some of these stones in various places having special qualities like conductive qualities or magnetic qualities. Is this something you've looked into?
Oh, definitely. Well, most of the megalithic work is out of hard stone, so basalt or granite, and they tend to be quite high in quartz crystal, and in the case of basalt, also pretty high in iron content. So, of course, iron is magnetic. And then, of course, we have the very strange location of Puma Punku, located in Bolivia, and it is comprised of two types of stone. One is red sandstone, which is neutral to magnetism, and then another material, stone called andesite, which is very highly magnetic. So if you take a compass to that location, the compass goes crazy on certain stones. Like there's no consistent aberration. It depends on which stone you're focusing on and your approach to it. So the famous H blocks are highly magnetic. And nobody's been able to explain that. Standard academics don't even know that anomaly exists, as far as I know. So that's something that I and Ancient Aliens and Ben of Uncharted X and people like that have been looking at.
What are the H blocks made out of?
That's the andesite material.
Right. Did you say that was the one that's high in iron?
I'm not sure no, actually basalt is high in iron.
Oh, basalt. Right. It's very interesting. I mean, to me, those H blocks, they almost look like they were poured or cast. To me. What's your thinking on the construction method for them?
Well, they do look like they're cast, but the important, you know, and there are lots of theories about that they made up a big wall or something like that. But when you go and measure them, each one is actually unique. They're not all of the same dimension.
Wow.
So each one is a one-off. So that blows the theory that they were, poured or a geopolymer or something like that. So again, it simply adds to the mystery of the location.
Oh, right. So you're saying they would have had to make an individual cast for each H block for them to have been poured, which just doesn't seem practical.
Well, and of course, there's also the theory that the Great Pyramid also is geopolymer. In that case, you have 2.3 million stone blocks. Of each one is a unique shape. So you'd have to have 2.3 million forms made out of some kind of material, and plywood wasn't in existence.
It's a lot of trees, isn't it?
Yeah, quite a few.
Now, I mean, I think there's two different sort of things going on. I mean, as far as the pyramids are sort of less enigmatic to me in that because they're smaller blocks, maybe a couple of tons each, and they're a relatively softer stone in limestone. Whereas the sites you're talking about, like Pumapunku, these are granite. These are and basalt, which are nearly as hard as you can get. It's almost like there's two different stories going on there. I don't know. Do you think they're related? Do you think the people who built Pumapunku are related to the people who built the pyramids?
No, I don't think so. I think we're looking at least three different ancient civilizations, because Egypt, pre-dynastic Egypt, it's all very logical. It's all very left-brained. It's all very linear. Then you get to Peru, where it's polygonal, and it's more of a right-brained, playful, artistic way of approaching things. And then Pumapunku, you have just astonishing levels of precision, almost laser flat surfaces. So I think you're talking of at least three different civilizations for those three locations. And then you have Easter Island, where you have, of course, the giant Moai figures. Some, were up to 40 feet tall. And I think that, again, was a different civilization again. I think you can draw some comparisons between Baalbek in Lebanon and Egypt, because it seems to be a relatively similar construction style, like, again, linear, massive scale. And even there's some sites in Saudi Arabia that you're allowed to visit now, which look very similar to the way that Baalbek was constructed, and to some degree Petra in Jordan.
You've got to, now, for people who are uninitiated about Baalbek, just tell people about Baalbek and the Trilithon and what's going on there.
Well, Baalbek is located in what's called the Bekaa Valley or Baka Valley, about 3-hour drive outside of the capital city, Beirut. And I mean, it's a surreal location. The bus took us first up to where the quarry is, which is about a mile from the Baalbek site itself. And there you have, I think, a 1,200-ton block of stone still attached to the bedrock. And, I literally said, holy F, when I saw it for the first time, because it's seeing pictures of it is one thing, but seeing it in person, it's beyond belief.
Yeah, you could ski down it, couldn't you?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the Trilithon, which is a series of 3,000-ton blocks which perfectly interlock with one another. I've been there twice. And they've opened up the entire site of Baalbek now to the public. So you have massive walls of blocks of stone weighing between 400 and 800 tons, all presumably coming from this quarry. Again, the conventional explanation of how this stuff was cut and transported makes no sense whatsoever. So it's another location where you see three construction styles. You have the megalithic at the bottom. Then you have Roman on top, which is smaller and not as well done. And then you have a medieval fort on top of that. So you have three different levels of construction, getting worse as time goes on.
Now, the conventional story is that there would only be two, I'm guessing, isn't it? Because the conventional archaeologists, historians say the Romans built the whole temple complex. And then the medieval layer was on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it took us three hours to reprogram our local guide, because she kept saying that the Romans did all of it. And again, you say, how about this 1,000-ton block? How was it moved? And she didn't have any explanation, but her explanation for why the Romans did it was to impress the local people.
I mean, this is what blows my mind about Baalbek is the Romans were very pragmatic. Why use a 1,000-ton block? Is 100-ton blocks not hard enough? I just don't get. It's the why that gets me.
Yeah, that's one of the most important questions. Why would you bother to go to that scale? Just the logistics again of cutting something that size and transporting it and setting it into place with such incredible precision. Luckily, the foundation area wasn't damaged by the Romans at all. So you can walk up very close to where this big row of 800-ton blocks are, and you can see they fit perfectly together. Like there is not an area where you can fit a piece of paper in where the joins are. So that's, again, how could anyone achieve that?
One of the arguments used by conventional archaeology is that there was some Roman column drums, I think, used underneath the Trilithon.
What's that?
I think one of the conventional arguments that the Romans put the Trilithon blocks in is that some Roman column drums were found in the wall beneath the Trilithon. And I believe, doesn't Graham Hancock suggest that this is repair, possibly by when the not Islam Catholic Romans. No, after the Romans that it was a repair job. Can't remember.
Well, it definitely looks like it was a repair job. That would be my explanation for it. Again, these sites are pretty complicated. You have to have a pretty keen eye, which most people don't have, to look at this stuff. But when you've had, several years of experience of going to these locations, you get more and more insight into how you think they were built, what you think would have been a later repair work. And it definitely looks like the smaller blocks were put in as an afterthought by somebody who was not the original builder.
Why do you think there is the stone left in the quarry? And I think isn't there a second stone been discovered in the quarry as well? Yeah,
there's a bigger one. So I think it was Russians who recently went there 3 years ago, and they fully excavated the stone of the pregnant woman. So now you can't climb on top of it. You used to be able to climb up from the bottom, but now they've cut all that earth out, and so it's it looms above you. And then next to it, there was just this flat surface, and some of the local archaeologists excavated one corner down to the bottom, and they estimate that one's 1,600 tons, and there could even be bigger ones there too.
Jeez.
But I mean, why do you think they're still in the quarry? Have you any hypothesis as to why that would be? Something must have happened for them to be left in the quarry.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear Brian? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Brian.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Don't know what happens. Dodgy internet, probably. Do you have a hypothesis or any clues, guesses as to why those stones would have been left in the quarry? What do you think might have happened?
I think there was a sudden cataclysmic event that stopped activity. That's what we see in Egypt. That's what we see in Peru. Like an enormous force suddenly struck all of these locations, maybe at the same time, and just simply stopped the construction. It could have been very high heat, which would have vaporized any organic life. So any plants or animals or people that were there would have been literally vaporized. We see lots of heat damage at locations like the Colossi of Memnon and Karnak and other locations in Egypt and in Peru and Petra in Jordan. So that seems to have been there's growing scientific evidence that that's what happened.
Are they looking at the exterior of the exposed bits of the stone? Is that showing signs of extreme heat stress? I don't know whether that would even show on material of this sort.
Yeah, you see, especially on the western surfaces, you see at Petra, you see that the stone has been like blackened surfaces, like it's been melted. At Karnak, it's all on the western side. In Peru, it's all on the western side. So it's like something. It looks like something came from the sun.
Wow.
So it's this kind of along the lines of like what Robert Schoch was saying around sort of massive geostorms and things like that.
Like a huge CME.
Yeah.
CME.
Amazing.
Is that your thinking that this is probably coronal mass ejection?
Right. I think it could very well be. I wrote a book called Aftershock where I look at all the theories of ancient devastation, all happening at the same time, all between about 13,000 and 12,000 years ago, which of course Graham Hancock and many others go into in great detail. Mm. And of course Robert Schoch's work, all the same timeline, which is really quite curious, all just, again, a little bit older than the destruction of so-called Atlantis.
Yeah, from Plato's account. So, I mean, how does this play in with the Younger Dryas? Do you think that it's possible for CMEs and Younger Dryas impacts, or one or the other, or what's your view on that? Because there's a lot of scientific papers been written over the last 2 decades about potential comet impacts into the North American ice sheets that could have caused this civilizational reset. But you seem to be swinging towards Robert Schoch and coronal mass ejections. So do you think it's a bit of both?
Oh, I think it was definitely both. I think it was such a massive series of events that happened. There's also the theory that the emissions of energy from galactic center happened at the same time,
gamma ray
and
bursts.
that was the trigger of the whole thing. That ejection of from the black hole at the center of our galaxy happened. That went across the galactic plane. That could have gone straight through the sun, and that could have triggered the plasma ejections from the sun, and then capturing comets along the path and having them, whack different planets and cause change in axis of different planets and things like that. So I think it was a whole series of events that happened over the course of around 1,000 years.
Amazing.
Not a good time to be around.
No.
It's a miracle any of us made it. How do you think Göbekli Tepe plays into this?
Well, Göbekli Tepe is interesting. I've been there. Technically, it's not that well done. So, it's been carbon dated as the oldest known series of structures. But when you're pretty up close to the stones themselves, it could have been done with hand tools. You're looking at a pretty large scale, like 20-ton pillars.
Yeah.
The quarry is supposedly right there, so it's not a big deal to move them. So, it's curious because it's been radiocarbon tested at that time period, which is very curious, but it doesn't show the level of precision that we see in these other locations we've been looking at. And of course, they've only supposedly excavated something like 1/30th of it, and the Turkish government don't plan to do any more excavation. So,
I mean, it sort of plays into the idea that Göbekli Tepe is the restart, shortly after this cataclysmic event that maybe lasted 1,000 years or so, that, you describe, you've seen these blocks up close and personal, and you can compare them to Puma Punku and the Assyrian and all these other places, and you think, well, this looks rough in comparison. I mean, that does suggest that this is the reset rather than... something along the lines of what you see in Egypt. Would you concur?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It looks like, and the chronology seems to state that Göbekli Tepe was probably the first large complex created after the series of cataclysms. It was like the restart of civilization again. But again, you go to the museum there, and it's, they think hunter-gatherers did all of this work. And,
yeah.
You'd need a very coordinated group of engineers and architects and builders to be able to do something on that scale. The fact that the Turks won't let any more excavation is very suspicious. But yeah, it's of no, it's impressive. For me, it's impressive to see once, but it's not that enigmatic to me as compared to all of these other places we've been discussing.
Yeah, I mean, it suggests to me that they had help from, you mentioned the organization, the engineering knowledge. If you think about, this is shortly after this massive cataclysm, there's going to be few survivors. The ones that have been struggling. For them to gather together, create a civilization, create the agriculture and therefore the surplus in food supplies to be able to have dedicated tradesmen, craftsmen, masons and all the rest of it. It does suggest to me that they had help from the outside, from people from the before times, the antediluvian people. That's what it fascinates me, that this could actually be real. That this could be, this sort of part of our story, our shared history, our shared, where we come from. And there's just so many massive holes in it. If you read a bog standard history book that just doesn't want to entertain these questions, it doesn't want to look at it because, there's so many vested interests in careers and short-term thinking and all the rest of it.
Yeah, well, that's why, again, I'm glad that there are a number of us now who are creating YouTube videos. As we mentioned Ben previously of Uncharted X. He produces brilliant documentary style works. He does have a background in engineering, and so he comes from a technical background. Then you have quite a few others. There's Johanna James, who lives in London. She's been producing some great stuff. And Bright Insight, who's Jimmy Corsetti. Yep. He's produced some very good things. So I'm very encouraged by the younger people coming up and exploring. I've been fortunate to be able to influence some of these people, and of course, all based on older, brilliant people like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and, Robert Schoch and Christopher Dunn, and, the list goes on and on. But it's very warming that there are more people catching on to this. They're not buying the party line anymore. More and more of the people pushing the old paradigm are probably retiring anyway, which is a good thing. So I'm very encouraged by, with the future and with what we've been able to uncover so far and what there still is to be able to show to the public in the future.
It's great we've maintained our sort of inquisitive nature or increased it almost with the younger generation. I think that is very positive for perhaps, answering some of these questions in the future.
Yeah, and, YouTube provides a platform, usually.
Yeah.
YouTube is a great tool as long as you're not too controversial or you don't. Mm-hmm. This is what's so dangerous about the situation we're in now with the censorship online and how we have to put certain videos on other platforms because this is the world we live in and politics comes into it. And we don't want to see these sorts of censorships escape into other fields such as alternative history. We're already getting it for alternative medicine, alternative science, and this is the danger that we have to be aware of because what you do is great, Brian, and for people who maybe don't have the means or they don't have the time or maybe they're like B.A. Baracus and they're scared of flying, for them to be able to go to your YouTube channel and see these things up close and personal in HD and the drone footage and everything, it's incredible. It's an incredible utility to have.
Yeah, it is. I'm not concerned about being banned from YouTube, though it could very well happen at some point. If it does, then that's the story. But so far, I haven't had any strikes or anything from YouTube. So,
No.
And I never get into politics. So I just look at the technical stuff that we look at and say, I don't tend to theorize too much either. I just like to show what there is and say, what do you think? And most people think I have no idea who did that.
Yeah.
Brian, we can't let you go. We need to talk about the skulls.
Well, I was just about to say exactly the same thing. Yeah. We haven't even talked about elongated skulls yet.
No, yeah, because you are the skull guy, the elongated skull guy, Brian. What's going on with these elongated skulls?
Well, nothing much new about that because of the last 2 years of problems we've all been having. But I would say the latest is that we know that the skulls of Paracas, Peru, which is where I'm located, were not Homo sapiens sapiens. We can, a lot of medical doctors are backing that up. There are morphological differences that show that they couldn't have been Homo sapiens sapiens. They were probably a subspecies. That's proven by the mitochondrial maternal DNA. It looks like they migrated possibly from the Black Sea because only 2 of the skulls, of the most ancient skulls that were able to do do DNA testing, were Native American in ancestry. So you're looking at a very complicated picture. And very recently, 2 of the skulls had their nuclear DNA tested, which is the paternal side, and there was no match with anything human. Jeez. So they're just becoming more and more obscure as time goes on.
And when I was kind of watching your videos, you kind of mentioned as well, there's a difference between sort of manipulated skulls and then this other kind of maybe subset of a human species or whatever. You see like what the differences are between the two?
Yeah, the cranial volume is larger. The oldest skulls appear to be natural in shape because I've seen a couple of fetuses where the skull is the size of the body. So there's no way that that's cranial deformation. That's obviously genetics.
Is that the kind of mainstream view then, that it is cranial manipulation, like binding?
Mm-hmm. That's the mainstream view, yeah.
Yeah, binding did happen. Binding happened in almost all the cultures involved. But the earliest Paracas skulls from the coast of Peru here, they genetically were different. Also, the foramen magnum, which is where your spinal column enters the bottom of your skull, is 2.5 centimeters back from where it's supposed to be. It's not at the balance point. And so obviously that gives evidence that the skulls were larger and elongated vertically, and that the foramen magnum was in its position to balance where the skull was supposed to be.
Do you think the later skulls may almost have been an homage?
Emulating the gods.
Absolutely, yeah. Be more godlike. So, that's kind of happening to this day. Eh?
I mean, is there any evidence that the later skulls were of people of a higher social standing or a higher class, like royalty or the analogue of royalty?
Yeah, it was only the nobility that had this happen too. So definitely. And of course, like the originals were natural in shape. Then as their population began to dwindle, they began interbreeding with normal looking people. And then as the skulls began to shrink in size, then that's when the manipulation of the binding would start to happen to maintain the look of the original people. Of course, no academic believes this, but I think I've done more work on this than anybody on the planet. So it makes me a bit of an expert on it.
Oh, theoretically, could you trace a bloodline then, and where that original DNA was sort of maintained throughout, and there would be people around today with some level of that elongated species?
Well, unfortunately, what happened was that the famous Nazca lines, the Nazca people moved in from the north, and they caused genocide on the original Paracas people. So when the Nazca take over, the elongated skulls disappear. Their genetic red hair of the Paracas disappears.
Red hair.
And the Paracas were actually the ones who did most of the Nazca line work anyway, not the Nazca.
Red hair, that's interesting. Isn't it?
I was just going to say as well, another thing you said in your video is about sort of, which is something that was completely new to me, is that you can find sort of elongated skulls all over the world. And even, I think you mentioned Akhenaten as well in Egypt.
Well, he's depicted as having an elongated skull, but his mummy's never been found. But yeah, you find elongated skull people in Melanesia. You find them the west coast or western part of Africa, throughout Europe at Stonehenge, all through parts of South America. The Maya had cranial deformation, and also into the United States as well to some degree.
So would I be right in saying that the ones that you find dotted around in various other places are later and therefore deformation rather than the very early ones in Peru?
Yeah, the only ones that that could have been natural in shape are the ones in Paracas, and also in the highlands of Peru as well, right, but also in the area of the Black Sea. So there are a few pictures online. If you put in Black Sea elongated skull, you'll see some photos, but not a lot. I don't think the Russians have done too much in terms of actual analysis of them, but you can find photos of them.
Do you think there could be a link? Because I'm thinking the Black Sea, I mean, if we assume that the Peruvian ones emigrated from the Black Sea area, do you think there's any possibility of a link between the elongated skulls in the Black Sea and the Denisovans? Because the Denisova cave's probably not too far from the Black Sea.
I think the time frame is a lot different, though. The Denisovans died out maybe 40 or 50,000 years ago or more. The Paracas ones date from around 3,000 to 2,000 years ago, as far as we know.
Wow, so quite recent then.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, they're the ones in Peru, the natural ones, for lack of a better word, 3,000 years old.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I just wanted to bring it back to sort of South America. I think this is right. Is something along? It's called is it called the Capac-Nian line? It sort of runs all the way up South America into the Americas, and that's where you find a lot of these elongated skulls along that line that runs up sort of like the continent, essentially.
Yeah, it's called the Path of Viracocha, right, and it goes from the border of Ecuador in the northwest down through the southeast, and all of the megalithic sites are located along that line. So you're talking about the Island of the Sun at Lake Titicaca, you're talking Pumapunku, you're talking Tiwanaku, you're talking Ollantaytambo and Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman. And also at all of those locations, they have found elongated skulls that date from, say, around somewhere in the region of around 2,000 years ago.
So is that just pure coincidence that these civilizations would build, near enough in a straight line up the continent, their things? Is that like a sort of the natural, I suppose, surroundings and all the rest of it that would make you do that? Or is there something that we're missing there of why that was done?
Well, it seems to be a band of energy. We actually had some people on a tour with us who were very good at dowsing energy, like earth energies. And right, that's what they said. They said there was a band that was around 100 meters across that went straight down through this line. And we on the tour, we followed the line, and they were able to establish at each location we went to, all of these megalithic sites, that there was this band that was going right through it. You have something similar in England called the Michael and Mary lines, which are energy lines too.
I I suppose that potentially kind of fits in with like this idea of frequency and things like that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when we think of civilizations, we think about building nets to water or where the land's rich. But what's so enigmatic about a lot of these structures in South America is they're in the middle of nowhere, or they're halfway up a mountain and seemingly inaccessible. Why build these structures there? And that's, seems a good explanation to me, that there's some significance to this.
Yeah, that's the only place you can build structures
It has
of
to
that
be there.
sort.
Yeah. It's absolutely wild. I love it. Brian, we've not done, I think we've done an hour already, Brian. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to let you go. We could talk to you all night, but you have a life.
That's fascinating, though, Brian. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute treat, hasn't it?
Definitely, yes.
Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah. Well, actually, why don't you contact me in 6 months and we can do this again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I'd love to. Where's your next big trip going to be, Brian? Your next tour?
Egypt in March.
Cool.
Egypt in March. Let's get saving, boys.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Well, there you are. All the links are in the show notes, eavesdroppers, and the website's up on, if you're watching the video, you can see the website there, hiddenincatours.com. Stay on the line, Brian, for us for 1 minute while we play ourselves out. And thanks for coming. We'll catch you on the flip side. Don't touch that dial. Right then, we're back.
The Dwarf, the Cripple, and the Mother of Madness.
That's our chat with Brian Forster from Hidden Inca Tours.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was good. I'm relatively new to Brian, but I've enjoyed quite a few of his videos now on the old YouTube. And I've enjoyed them and enjoyed some of his ideas and stuff. Yeah, it's incredibly interesting if he has discovered a new species of human.
Yeah, we sort of we didn't get much. We left it a bit late because there's so many things to talk about in this realm that we had just sort of had the last sort of 10 minutes on the Paracas, didn't we? The elongated skulls, but hopefully he'll come back.
Well, let's get him back for the summer solstice.
Summer solstice, yes.
Might be busy then, but we'll get him back. He said it, not us.
Yeah, right, okay, fine. Yeah.
He's got to come back now.
No, A Gentleman and a Scholar. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I thought it was a good start to the new year.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, eavesdroppers.
Happy New Year. What did you do?
Oh, I thought you were asking the eavesdroppers. I stayed in. I had a little nap, played some board games.
What board games?
One was Dog Man, I think. And that was based on a children's book, and it was extremely difficult.
Is it about a cryptid?
I think so, yeah.
Dog Man is a cryptid.
It had some kind of monster involved, so that was quite difficult. We also played something a bit like Pictionary, where you choose 3 things and you have to draw it, and the other people have to guess. I forget what it's called.
Win, lose, or draw.
Like
was
that.
Danny Baker hosting?
He was. He did pop in. Yeah.
Shane Ritchie.
No, it's Danny Baker. Yeah.
Did Tony Slattery come around for that?
No.
Not well, Tony Slattery.
Is he not?
No, he had some kind of breakdown in like the early 90s.
Oh, shit.
Did a program on about him, yeah. Recently, I watched a documentary about him. He got seriously addicted to. I think he might still be addicted to alcohol, but like seriously addicted to like cocaine, and would regularly throw TVs out of his like £1 million apartment on the banks of the Thames, and eventually like the police knew him by name and said, Tony, can you stop throwing TVs out of your bedroom window? Yeah, kind of thing.
Shit, well, you got to have a hobby, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think he's just recently, I can't remember, it might have been just before the pandemic that he had started doing kind of tours again. He wasn't doing stand-up, it was more, he was doing stuff around
the aerodynamics of televisions.
Yeah, he was doing stuff around like his life story and that.
Yeah.
An evening with.
What did you do for New Year?
for New Year or Christmas.
Yeah.
New Year.
Christmas is in the past. It's dead. It's
God.
dead to me. It's gone. I've already took my tree down today.
Okay. Sorry.
You know.
Sorry, turn it off.
For New Year, I went to my bro's house and I drank 6 or 7 cans of ale. And the kids played Nintendo Switch in another room until all their faces went pink. And then we went home about 9 o'clock.
And radiation.
God, what time did you get there? Early start?
4.
Oh, blooming heck.
9,
Oh, we had a curry as well. Went for a curry.
So Mrs. driving then?
Yeah.
You don't sound too sure.
She was.
Someone drove me. 7 years.
I woke up at home. They're only small cans.
Yeah.
What did you do for New Year's, you filthy pig?
It was Saturday, wasn't it?
Saturn's Day.
No, Friday.
Friday.
It was Friday, so that's not my night to take the kids to bed. So at Kiddie's bedtime, the missus threw me the remote. She cast the remote to me
Right.
while she took the kids to bed and say, find a film for us to watch.
Hootenanny.
This is our fate.
All
So we got Disney for Christmas. Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Treat yourselves.
Yeah, my treat for the family.
Nice.
Is Predator on there?
Predators is on there.
Right, okay.
With the pianist guy. Mm-hmm. Random Terminator films. And I started at A in the entire Disney film catalogue. And I got to B, Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice.
So we watched that.
Very
And
good.
it's a fucking wicked film. Still stands up. Stands up. It's all in the reflexes.
I've not watched it for years.
Watch it. It's a great
Has
film.
it got Kim Cattrall in it? Is it?
Yes.
Is it got, yeah,
Kim Cattrall.
Cattrall.
It should have been Garstang.
Yeah.
The girl with the green eyes.
Yeah. So yeah, she was fit, wasn't she as well?
She was in 24, was she? As well, back in the day.
No,
24,
she was. I don't think she was born when
Was she
Big
not?
Trouble in Little China came out. It was in the mid-80s, wasn't it?
86.
Was it maybe was like 1 then?
Good film. Lopan is the antagonist.
Right, I can't remember any of. All I can remember is Kurt Russell,
Yeah, Jack Burton.
fancying Kim Cattrall,
Yeah.
and something about Chinatown.
Yeah, it's just a rampage.
Is it
in
like
Chinatown.
have some kind of? Is it like
supernatural?
Yeah, is it like dimensions and stuff in it?
Yeah, Lopan can like go through walls.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Right.
like light comes out of his mouth.
Shit.
Oh.
And he's a clip where he's in the wheelchair and he's like an old man and he's trying to explain what's going on.
That visualization.
You know, 'cause he's shaking. He's fucking 2,000 years old.
That's
Right.
for the one for the YouTube viewers
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Odyssey.
And Kurt Russell goes like, what's going on here? I just don't get it. And, you know, Lopan goes, the universe wasn't created for you to get it, Mr. Burton. Just loads of great little
I
one-liners.
bet
going
there
through.
was loads of chimpanzee laughing and palms on foreheads. How many times did you do that during that film?
I laughed all the way through it. It's a quality film.
And what was
Excellent.
your wife doing? Just
She
sat
loves
there-
it.
Oh, she was watching
How
it.
can anyone not enjoy Big Trouble in Little China?
Was she? Or
90 minutes.
was she like this?
Nope.
Oh,
No, I didn't see her picking up the screen face ache machine.
Right,
whatever you
okay.
call them. Smartphone. That's smartphone.
Yeah.
No, I think she actually watched it all.
Okay.
I was thoroughly engrossed.
Nice.
And we followed that. Well, interestingly, the film finished. It's only 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And she said, TV's not working. So she was trying to watch terrestrial TV. And the aerial's broken.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I said, is this the first time you've tried to watch terrestrial TV since last New Year's Eve?
You mean like analog TV?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
the rate-
well, digital,
You
isn't it?
switch that up, haven't they?
The aerial.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
digital one.
The stuff that comes down the tube.
Yeah, through the light pipe. I said, no, I've watched TV. Watched TV. We don't watch terrestrial TV ever.
No,
It's all
streamed.
streamed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, what are you trying to do? Put Hooten on it or something. I said, yeah. I said, go through iPlayer. It'll be on the iPlayer live.
Yeah.
And then I said, anyway, I want to get rid of TV license. And she went, fucking apeshit.
Why?
You're not getting rid of that. No, I don't want them knocking at my door. I mean, what, the TV license goons? So they don't knock at your door. Only if you stop paying and don't tell them. I say it's 160 quid a year. Well, I don't want to pay 160 quid a year to be brainwashed and propagandised. It's not, and we haven't used it all year. So it's a battle I'm fighting. I'm hoping I'm going to win that one.
Well, it doesn't.
Since I'm paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
You know,
How much is Disney a month?
I don't know.
$7.99, I think.
Something like that.
£7 a month. So, and I believe you can purchase it for a year for less, like in one go, like maybe like 60 quid.
I think so.
For the year.
I said it should. We'll get it for December and January for Christmas. That's it.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, I was just going to make a comparison with
License fee.
But you know, so and you get all that great content with Disney. And what's the BBC got that you can access all the time?
And she goes, and I want to listen to the radio. The fucking clue's in the name. It's TV license, not radio license. You don't need a TV license to listen to Radio 1, you dickhead.
I think you do.
I think you do, yeah.
No, you don't. Go on the website.
Oh, right, okay.
You don't. The only thing
Do
you
you need
need
a
a
license
TV
for the website?
The only thing you need a TV license for is watching or recording live TV
Oh, right, okay.
or watching the iPlayer.
Is a black and white TV license still cheaper? It used
50
to be.
quid.
Wow, shit. Just turn your colours down.
So anyway, it comes out of the joint account, so you're not turning it off.
Right.
Because I used to pay for it.
I think I know someone who's stopped paying or moved into a house and never and they sent him a letter and they said, right, you know, we'll come and check. It's just like never answered the door.
No, it's a door. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, basically.
I went down a YouTube rabbit hole once watching videos of. It's a playlist called TV License Goons. I think if you go to the Armis Inquisition on YouTube, you'll find it. The playlist there.
Right.
I maybe saved a special playlist for people. Nice. And yeah, you just shut the fucking door, and it doesn't matter. I mean, the aero don't fucking work.
Yeah.
So you know, it's like.
But what about the detector vans?
I'm just trying to think. The only thing I would probably watch is like the World Cup.
Oh yeah, that'll be back end of this year, right?
Or like the Euros or tennis. I'd watch Wimbledon, but I'm probably less. I like tennis, but probably less inclined to watch that now because you know there's nobody good because like Andy Murray's got no hip. He's British, really. I suppose there's the
Raducanu.
Yeah, Raducanu, isn't there? Actually, I did watch her in the final, and she was good. Obviously. So yeah, I suppose that's the only thing I would watch it for is live stuff. I've watched the occasional bit of news, maybe, but that's it.
But only because there was nothing else you wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do you turn the news? You know, it's not like you watch the 6 o'clock news every night or news
Under
night.
the hammer.
No. You know, I mean, yeah, it has over the last couple of years. We just watch like Netflix now. You know, sometimes Now TV if we've got a thing for it, or Disney, or you know, just all the basic streaming.
So now you've got Disney. The world has opened up to you. We watched Dope Sick over Christmas, which is fantastic. I think you would enjoy that particularly.
Yeah, what's it about?
It's about Purdue Pharma and OxyContin marketing.
The Oxy Express.
Yeah, it's good. I instantly drew some parallels that you will instantly draw way before I did, with sorts of references that Purdue Pharma came up with to try and boost the sales of the drug. So they made up some conditions like breakthrough pain. So if you were only on like 20 milligrams and it wasn't working or wasn't lasting 12 hours, they would sort of say, "Oh, you must have breakthrough pain. So here, have 40 milligrams."
Yeah, and they
bump it up
weren't
and up.
ever addicts. They were always in pain.
The marketers did that with Tylenol.
Did they?
Right.
Or paracetamol. Yeah.
That's
It
paracetamol,
used to be one.
Right.
And then they said, why don't you do an advert where you take 2? You double your sales.
Now everyone takes 2.
Now everyone takes 2.
Right. Tylenol. Is that like?
Acetaminophen.
It's the American version of paracetamol.
I was going to say, what's our one beginning with P that's expensive? Not penis.
Panadol.
Panadol, is it?
I don't know. That's a brand name, isn't it?
That's what I mean. Yeah, isn't that paracetamol? Panadol.
Maybe.
Could be.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It's not all your Lemsips and shit. Aspirin is not.
It's just tree
Oh,
bark.
no money in this shit anymore. 33 billion for Pfizer this year
Not in generics,
on the old
yeah.
magic juice. That's where the money is now. Get on your subscription, your vaccine subscription, one every 3 or 4 months for the rest of your life.
Only if you're
like
experiencing breakthrough infections.
Yeah, or deadly variants or political scariants.
So, having experienced a breakthrough infection, I have to say, now I do feel immortal.
I'll save it. I might save it for the COVID news, or do you want me to talk about it now?
Talk about what?
My brother's sweaty hand.
Oh, go on.
One sweaty hand.
He had it, and he keeps waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he goes downstairs because he's all sweaty, but it's just one hand.
Wakey, wakey, hands off snaky.
It's just one hand sweaty.
I think that's a symptom of long COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
It's long COVID.
Which hand is it?
I didn't ask. I was laughing too much.
Good job, Bob.
Is it life threatening?
He seems fine, other than the waking up and feeling sick randomly. Yeah.
That's weird. He's not pregnant, is he?
I take it that's a breakthrough as well. Breakthrough case.
Yes, I guess. Yeah.
You'd imagine so.
I don't think he'd had his number 3.
Did you not get boosted now?
That was quite good. That.
Maybe that was I wasn't allowed to get boosted when I got COVID. I wasn't old enough.
Good. Done yourself a favour.
But I'm thinking, he wasn't one of them, but I'm like hearing people on the grapevine sort of beginning to say no, and especially if they've had it, and just saying, why do I need a vaccine if I've had it?
Well, I think a lot of people are seeing the pattern now, and they'll be going, well, I may as well wait till the 4th one. I don't think I can have the booster after infection for 90 days or something.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So by March time, where might we be? It might be, you need the 4th one by then. Well, do I need the 3rd and the 4th?
I know it's balmy, isn't it?
Just stop trashing your immune systems. You don't need them. You've had it. Fuck's sake. The booster knocked my dad for 6.
Did it?
Yeah, it made him really rough for like 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Is he AZ Pfizer?
Pfizer all the way.
All right.
Pfizer all the way.
As far as I know.
Pfizer bells.
I've heard that the Pfizer one has had more of a immunoresponse in terms of like making people feel ill.
Anecdote. I don't know.
Yes,
Who knows?
Who knows?
Phil, would you rather be injected with Pfizer or Tizer?
Tizer. Every day of the week.
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah. Right, come on.
Yeah.
Housekeeping.
This is a Value for Value podcast. If you find this podcast valuable, please consider returning some value. There's a myriad of ways of doing this, and my favourite is word of mouth. Tell people to share a link and say, listen to this, you fuck. If you like podcasts.
Yeah.
You like long skulls. Fucking listen to this shit.
Yeah, for 10 minutes.
Hey, Steve, you like long skulls? Get this in your ear hole. That kind of thing.
Spread the infection of the Amish Inquisition by your mouth, and tell your friends and family about us. Follow us on social media too. Ben, what's your favourite way?
My favourite way, I would say, would be to join the Discord server and commune with us.
Oh, is that why you're in there all the time?
My time is precious.
Oh, you idiot. Subscribe to both YouTube and Odyssey.
Hit the bell. Smash that like button.
Smash it into pieces, you filthy pervs. And leave us a review. I think we need more reviews, personally.
Yeah, the YouTube gods look favourably.
What the fuck? You not even turned it on.
They look favourably on reviews. I am the god of YouTube, and I summon the wrath of this bullshit bollocks.
Yeah. Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah, reviews. They look favourably on reviews. You get lots of reviews. You know, say, "Oh, this might not be worth censoring. Maybe we'll promote this."
Is that how it works?
It's black magic, isn't it? Who knows how it works?
Allegedly, we got an email, didn't we, from Spotify as well, saying that they're going to be adding reviews.
Oh yeah,
but it doesn't see. I checked at the time, and it hadn't happened.
It's a gradual unfurling of the review process. So some podcasts have it.
So they'll go like Rogan, then us, then Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, maybe you'll be able to give us a star review or just under the podcast artwork on Spotify.
Yeah. So do that when it's available. Buy some merch like me.
Look at that beautiful.
I didn't even get an employee discount on this. I paid full price, which I'm going to stay with the eavesdroppers on that one.
Yeah, Matt's modelling the.
Because I'm literally a communist.
Authentic Armis Inquisition merch hoodie. Go to the show notes and you'll find the link there for the Amish loot chest, and you can get you're literally a communist hoodie, current grape t-shirts. 3 weeks to flatten the earth.
Yeah,
t-shirts are up there. That's a good way to support us.
Artwork, Ben. Pixels, how many?
Oh, Christ.
Irrelevant, man.
Stop saying that. I'm trying to get him to say that he doesn't matter anymore.
One by one, because it doesn't matter. Don't
one block
send
of
one by one.
Like a Minecraft homage. Shall I reveal? I made some artwork. Shall I reveal it?
I think you should. I can see it this time.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ooh, that's nice. It's I like the gold and green.
Yeah, do you think it pops?
It does pop.
Pop.
So we've got in the background there, the purple is that is the picture that Nick uploaded to the Discord of the wall.
Oh, they're not the ones you can't slide a piece of paper between, are they?
They're the polygonal masonry,
polygonal ones,
weird shaped blocks. That's sort of the background, and then we've got the Temple of the Sun. I think that is at Machu Picchu.
Right.
The one where on the solstice, can you see that shadow down the right-hand side of the causeway, the steps? It turns into like a snake on the summer solstice, and there is a snake's head at the bottom of each.
What the fuck?
Wow, that's some planning.
Serious planning, yeah. We've got on the right, bottom right, that is the jaguar carved out of the pillar
in
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
What is it? Pillar 43 in Enclosure D, maybe? No, that's the vulture pillar.
Yeah, I'm not up to the that pillar yet.
But you are reading a book about Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, Martin Sweatman's book, on Göbekli Tepe. I think it's called Prehistory Decoded.
That's the one.
But that's an excellent book. We'll have to see if you'll be willing to come on.
It'd be a good guess.
Yeah.
And then on the left, we have the Paracas. We've got a reconstructed, computer-generated image of the cone heads, yes, from Peru.
Nice. So doesn't look very happy, does he?
No, he doesn't, does he? Well, he is dead.
He is dead, and he's pursing his lips.
Computer generated.
So that reminds. So we need a title, don't we? We need a title for the eavesdrop.
Oh, right, for the YouTube
clickbait.
YouTube clickbaiting.
Clickbait. I've got my quill. The clickbait title for this.
Elon. Well, we've already done solved on the other one, so should we just do it again? Where we say elongated skulls solved.
No.
Polygonal masonry. Sacred frequencies, elongated skulls, all solved within 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to snap.
It's got to pop, hasn't it?
Elongated skulls, found or bound?
Nice. I like that.
Oh my god, Elon Musk gated skulls, found
or bound?
Found.
That actually makes no sense now. I've listened to it again.
Are they found?
Well, they have been found.
They are found, Ben, yeah. What rhymes with bound and that means that they're like...
Sound.
Kind of goes in with a bit
a
of
little
the
bit, yeah.
Where they sound... Oh, not sounded. That could take you down a different kind of path.
Clowned?
Cloned.
Or boned?
Cloned or boned.
Okay, it's cloned or boned. clone.
Bind or
Human or buman?
we are not good at this.
Human or bound? Bound human?
Bound to be authentic.
Bound.
I'm gonna make this. It's getting silly now. Come on.
This is not a comedy podcast.
It's a philosophical one.
Yep. Anything else? What? Discord. You mentioned Discord. Discord is the best place to come if you want to connect with us and get involved with the community. You can send us your artwork there. You can send us video clips and audio links in the news sections. Guest suggestions you can get. Brian was a guest suggestion. NetSuite's guest is a guest suggestion. We've had several.
Yeah,
we are implementing.
Harry Shapiro.
Yep, we're implementing these suggestions.
Ben wasn't he?
Ben from Uncharted X was, yeah.
We've had a few from Discord, I think.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, and they've all been really good, and there've been people that I wasn't familiar with, who I would have never thought of.
Yeah, you can request a birthday shout out on the Discord if you've got a birthday coming up. You can give jingle requests, send us memes for Instagram, Focus Chi requests.
And the 100% hit rate with those, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like scary.
If you have, maybe you've got a job interview coming up, or you're suffering from depleted chi in the form of a health condition, or someone you know is, and you want our community to focus our chi in your direction, you can pop that in the Discord, and we will implement that. And it is 100% effective.
Yeah, let us know how it goes if
So
you do
far.
request that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other ways to become a producer?
Could toss us a coin.
Toss a coin to
Yeah, toss a coin, you know, because
Oh, we're northern and we're bloody miserable and the weather's fucking shit.
do it for the
Lads.
Yep. If you go to thearmsinquisition.com, you can find the PayPal button there, and you can give us a one-off donation, sign up for a monthly recurring sustaining donation, or donations at the level of £50 or above grant you executive producer status.
Yeah, it'd be great to get, boots on the ground in some of these places, like Peru.
We already have had the boots on the ground.
Yeah, Nicholas.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, he said.
So yeah, throw some fucking money at us. Only you listening at home can
Save Plotland.
keep the shit show going.
Yeah.
Got some major upgrades in the works as far as
Yes.
kit goes. Streaming kit, hardware,
Tech.
Yeah, want to improve the video quality of the streams, and this requires money, financing.
Yes.
Fortunately.
Yeah, for a new streaming PC, because the laptop you could fry a fucking egg on, and it's going to die at any time, I think. So we need to upgrade. So if you can spare us anything, if you think this podcast is valuable, you can spare us a $5 here or there, or a $10 there. If a small proportion of you listening did that, it would go a long way to covering the cost of the new machine.
Absolutely. We'll put it all in a big whiskey jar, and then at the end we can break it and buy a new laptop or a new desktop.
Yeah, that's the plan. All right, shall we move on?
Moving on.
Oh, God, we've got to thank the producers, haven't we?
Yeah.
God, I've had 2 weeks off. I've forgotten what we're supposed to be doing.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think
Christmas.
it's time, isn't it?
It's time to big up the man Dems. Yo.
Let's thank the producers for episode 213. We have Mostly New Year's, Rona Kesson, Slicko, and Anonymous. Thank you. You're so amazing.
They are
Yeah.
so amazing in their love. Literally.
The best mate.
It's a miracle.
The dwarf, the
Carrots,
the
grape,
the
Homophobe. The wind.
asthma,
the
cunt,
The number 11.
the
blind man,
the
fallen on the horizon.
the cripple and the mother of
Johnny Pickering!
From hell. I don't get it, never will.
We had the New Year's honours list released.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I've got some highlights from the New Year's honours list. Completely unpredictable, this. Professor Chris Whitty and Professor Jonathan Van Tam. That's
Next slide, please.
Are they going to be Knights of the Realm?
That's Chief Medical Officer and Deputy Chief Medical Officer.
Over.
who became household names during the COVID-19 pandemic have been knighted in the New Year Honours List. Dr. Jenny Harries, Chief Executive of the UK Health Security Agency, and Dr. June Rain, Head of the Vaccines Regulator, the MHRA, are becoming dames. The Chief Medical Officers for Scotland and Wales, Gregor Smith and Frank Atherton, are also given knighthoods. Chief Scientific Advisor Patrick Vallance is elevated to the Order of the Bath, because he's already a Sir, he's already a Knight. He's Order of the Bath. And just to put the final cherry on the cake.
Cherie on the cake.
Tony Blair is knighted, being appointed to the Order of the Garter. Unlike the main New Year's Honours List, which is advised on by the Prime Minister's office, the Order of the Garter is by a royal appointment.
Oh, wow. Who's what?
So it's handpicked by the Queen, Tony Blair.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? She would have done that.
Yeah.
Are we on there? No.
Afraid not.
Did who's the behavioural spy bee woman? Did she get on there? What's her name? Mitchie.
Susan Mickey,
No, that one.
Literally a communist.
Yeah.
No.
She's not on there.
No, she's not on there. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's Spy M, is it? Spy B? Not sure.
Well done to all those guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you earned it. Right, let's move on.
Testing. Needs test. Test that motherfucker.
Test till you're blue in the face.
COVID-19 news.
People have got to understand vaccination is going to be, in the end, your route to liberty.
The magic vaccine.
A big fat shot in the ass.
From hell.
Oh! You know, it's just, super painful.
Like a judgment day and terminating mode, like.
Injected with nanobots.
If you want to participate in our society fully, you gotta get vaccinated.
Fuck off. If you can be vaccinated and you refuse to, that's a selfish act.
This is our line in the sand.
We had a collaboration with some Chinese scientists.
But if we're all unmasked, we're actually less free.
By next year, hopefully, transitioning this virus from pandemic to endemic.
We drum in that messaging around the dangers of COVID pretty diligently for a full 2-week period of sustained propaganda.
Our efforts to address the global pandemic.
I wish we could vaccinate against stupidity.
Every vaccination brings us hope.
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the new world order.
Being a good, responsible COVID citizen is something we should all aspire to.
That's not in the spirit or in the letter of these rules.
More lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
It's not going to allow us to go completely back to normal.
Anal swab test.
In the same ballpark as seasonal influenza.
Because we're getting bored, we want to have fun.
But I can't save you if you're not wearing a face mask.
2 million people have to die.
Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
Since it's a new year, I played the extended cut.
Yeah, it feels like 2021.
Yeah, heavy.
Speaking of Tony Blair, he was in the press this week. He was out in force just before Christmas. He's got a message for the unclean, pure bloods like myself.
Frankly, if you're not vaccinated at the moment and you're eligible and you've got no health reason for not being vaccinated, you're not just irresponsible. I mean, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I mean, that is, truthfully, you are. I mean, because this Omicron variant is so
benign, mild, struggling for the word there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Contagious. If you're unvaccinated and you're in circulation, you're going to get it. And that's what's going to put, that is going to put a lot of strain on the health service. I mean, almost half the people in the ICU are unvaccinated. And then it's really important. We shouldn't target these people who are unvaccinated in a heavy-handed way, but we should be trying to go after them and persuade them, maybe all sorts of reasons. But honestly, it is in their own interest, never mind the public interest, for them to get vaccinated. And then finally, we've got to redouble the efforts to get vaccination out into the third world. You're not just irresponsible. I mean, you're an idiot.
Classic political U-turn in the same.
You should really go after these people with a heavy hand, but you're an idiot.
Yeah. Frankly. I mean, there's no nuance there, is there? There's no risk-benefit calculation. All right, Tony, what about the people under 40 who got the AstraZeneca?
Well, that's me.
Yeah. We can't have it now, can you? Why? Because the risk-benefit calculation went against vaccination with that particular vaccine. In short order from it being released.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I remember.
These guys are fucking spinning a yarn. They have no idea what's going to happen over the next year once you've had your 5th and 6th and 7th dose. You know, but, you know, he's just a prick and he's a war criminal.
Sir Prick.
Yeah, and I signed the petition today. I had 200,000 signatures last time I checked for him to be stripped of his knighthood. That's within 24 hours of it being announced.
Yeah.
Very divisive figure.
It was quite mad how he got through the inquiry, really. It was kind of touch and go, wasn't it, as to whether or not he would even appear in it, I seem to remember. But was it on the basis that he couldn't incriminate himself or something? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a stitch-up. It always is. It's, you know, powerful people very rarely get their comeuppance. But that doesn't mean you have to listen to him. And I'm not listening to him. He's a prick.
Can't please all the people all the time.
What's his name? Peter Openshaw, who's a member of Nerve Tag.
Oh, that's such a great name. It's like almost like Resident Evil style.
Yeah. It is like a pharma company from Resident Evil.
Yeah, I think Nerve is a conglomerate in an old manga thing. Oh, what's it? I'll put it in Discord.
It's some sort of. It's a bit like Sage. It's one of the scientific committees that feeds into Sage about new and infectious diseases, Nerve Tag. And anyway, Dr. Peter Openshaw from Nerve Tag was on BBC Breakfast this week, underlining just how transmissible the Omicron is.
You know, we've had several iterations of this virus going through different stages of its evolution, and it's ended up being so infectious that it almost needs just a whiff of infected breath, and you can get infected. Whiff of infected breath.
A whiff?
A whiff of infected breath. And you're going to get it.
Yeah, I know, but it's probably a good one to get, isn't it? It's a good...
Well, yeah, apparently.
Variant.
It reproduces in the upper respiratory tract rather than the lungs, which makes it more transmissible and less dangerous.
Right, okay.
This started with a research group out of Hong Kong. And I believe
over Christmas,
there's been another 5, I think, studies confirming this. That's rather than where the Delta seems to reproduce in the bronchioles and the lower airways where it can do more damage. This is more located in the nasal pharynx area.
Yeah, that kind of links with what Peter McCulloch was saying, wasn't he, around basically just washing your nose out with...
It's good. It's really
antiseptic, iodine.
Yeah. It makes me really pleased that we're following the science. So, you know...
Yeah, but he's like been sort of poo-pooed, hasn't he?
McCulloch, yeah.
He's $150,000 in the hole to defend his medical license. Right. He's been taken off Twitter. His interview on Rogan has been taken off YouTube as well.
I didn't think they went on YouTube Rogan stuff anymore.
Yeah, clips of it do.
Oh, right,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, not him.
Right, okay.
And same with Robert Malone, who was on the other day. YouTube have counted that.
Right, yeah.
Robert Malone was taken off Twitter the day before the JRE episode came out. Nothing to see there.
No,
that's not organised censorship at all.
No, yeah, they've got wind, haven't they, that he's on, and snipped him before he could.
Twitter's got a lot to answer for in all this. What's the name of that thing the BBC started? The News Alliance Initiative.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on it. But yeah, the BBC set up this thing with Reuters and that early on in the pandemic that these guys were going to be, the defenders of truth and trusted media outlets and all this lot. It's a joke.
How dangerous is it to just let people decide what they think about stuff?
Oh, you can't be. What if you stoke vaccine hesitancy?
Well, you might
by saying that kids get myocarditis at a rather alarming rate.
I don't know. Let the people decide.
Yeah, in an ideal world. Speaking of people who have been banned off pretty much every platform. Professor Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, yeah. I'd heard something about him.
Children's Health Defense. He was on the Michaela Peterson podcast this week. He was talking about the liability shield that pharmaceuticals companies get, because this is what he does for a living. He sues pharma companies, energy companies, people who, like, big multinationals that pollute the water. He's won billions of dollars in lawsuits against multinationals. Monsanto,
right?
Like $500 million awards and stuff. So he's well versed in the legal system. He's a professor, emeritus professor. Oh, but he's an anti-vaxxer. Well, he's not an anti-vaxxer. Well, according to him, he says he's not an anti-vaxxer. But he was on the Michaela Peterson podcast talking about the liability shield and, you know, why are these companies so eager to jab kids who are at virtually no risk of this disease?
Well, they have to give it to kids because here's why. They cannot market this vaccine without having an immunity shield. So, I mean, I sue pharmaceutical companies for a living, and I have enough criminal activity that I know about Pfizer at this point and Moderna. If they went ahead and marketed a vaccine where they end up killing people or injuring them, and I can sue them, well, they'd be through. So they're never going to market a vaccine, allow people access to a vaccine, an approved vaccine, without getting liability protection. Now, the emergency use authorization vaccines have liability protection under the PrEP Act and the CARES Act.
Following it so far.
Yep. So you can't sue them while they're under emergency release. If a vaccine is given EUA, it's automatically has a liability shield. So if something goes wrong to you once you've taken it, you can't. There is a federal system, the vaccine court, you can go through. Yep.
Which doesn't offer a great deal, and there's all sorts of bureaucracy, and you've got to prove causation and all this stuff. They'll jump through as many hoops as they can to avoid paying you out. And he's saying, you know, pharma companies won't release this or market it. That's the key word. They won't market it without having an immunity shield from legal action, which they have under EUA. But we can't stay under EUA forever. So what comes next?
Oh, as long as you take an emergency use, you can't sue them. Once they get approved, now you can sue them, unless they can get it recommended for children.
What?
Because all vaccines that are officially recommended for children get liability protection, even if an adult gets that vaccine. That's why they're going after kids. They know this is going to kill and injure a huge number of children.
So if the FDA, CDC, recommends this vaccine as a childhood vaccine, like the measles and all the rest of it, it's granted immunity.
Wow.
Even if you're 65 and you take it, it's classed as a childhood vaccine and you get liability immunity and you can't sue them.
Well, what about the kids?
They need to do it for the liability protection. And here's how they know that it's going to injure kids. During the Pfizer study, they only tested it on 1,300 children. And one of those we now know was a girl called Maddie Gary. We only know about this because she and her family came forward and told us what happened. Maddie Gary got the vaccine. She immediately went into seizures. She is now in a wheelchair for life, and she needs a feeding tube to eat. So Pfizer, because Pfizer only tested on 1,300 kids, it is stuck with the extrapolation. And 1 out of every 1,300 kids is going to be injured like that, an injury worse than death. Pfizer did not report her injury. Instead, it said she had a stomach ache. So that's what they reported to the FDA.
Wow.
Jeez.
I've seen the video of this girl and it's not the girl talking, and it's her mother. They were meeting with a senator or some sort of House representative, maybe from Florida or somewhere, wherever she lives, talking about what happened. And but the mother's in bits, and basically says they were completely abandoned. Pfizer completely abandoned them when this happened. Because it's bad news. It's just no good, is it? We can't have this happening.
No.
So I thought that was interesting. I'd never heard that before, that if something's recommended as a childhood vaccine, in the States anyway, then the liability shield comes back, even on an approved vaccine.
Do you remember GSK and their flu vaccine that caused narcolepsy in
No.
a significant number of people. It was withdrawn.
Right. Was that
this
not-
was for swine flu.
Swine flu, it was nurses.
It was the nurses who got the narcolepsy.
Yeah. It was quite late onset. It wasn't like within 6 months. There are nurses today who are still trying to get compensation from that.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
What is it, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Trying to get compensation off the UK government for that swine flu vaccine. There's the one that we ended up with billions of doses, and there was a big scandal, wasn't there, amongst all across Europe, because Europe had stockpiled billions of doses, or hundreds of millions of
Went out
doses.
of date.
Yeah, it was just the epidemic had disappeared because people stopped paying attention to it.
Mm.
But they're not going to make that mistake this time.
Yeah.
Keep getting your booster. We've ordered them. We paid for them. So
Is this must be the most number of people who've taken a vaccine, even if you count all the different flu vaccines. So a year's worth of flu vaccine be a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of people who've had this Pfizer jab or even the AstraZeneca. I would imagine.
I don't know.
I've not fact checked that. It's just a thought.
Well, it definitely is. I mean, if you look at there's a famous bar graph of vaccine injuries over the last 30 years since, I think it was 1990 when VAERS started, and it's just down like this, and then 2020 it goes through the roof. And, people say, well, that's because we're giving out more doses. Still people being injured.
Yeah, absolutely. Your percentage rate is going to be an interesting figure at some point.
Yeah. Anyway, sticking with the kid jabs, the magic juice, we got an update from the Zoe app this week, and Tim Spector is away. I'm guessing he's at St. Bart's, where all those...
the billionaires are at. David Geffen.
In the Caribbean, all those billionaire yachts are. So we had his deputy in, I didn't catch her name, and she mentioned something about jabbing kids, which I thought bird repeating from the Zoe app.
So moving on now to think about children and vaccination. Some really good news in the last week. Just before Christmas, the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation finally decided that the Pfizer COVID vaccine can be given to primary school-aged children if they are either themselves vulnerable or if they have a household contact. They're a household contact of someone who is immunocompromised. So that's a great step forward and brings us more in line with other countries like the US, Spain and France.
Oh, because other countries are doing it, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's complete nonsense. You shouldn't be saying that for a start.
No, yeah.
We've been vaccinating the over fives.
That's how we got into the fucking lockdown, because everyone else was doing it.
Yeah.
For some time now. It's going to be a great help when schools go back as well, which is likely to bring another surge in cases. If you've got someone who's immunocompromised in your family circle, then it really makes sense to get the children in your family group vaccinated. I'll be vaccinating my children as soon as I can, as they need to be in school. And also vaccination will reduce the risk of long COVID, which is still there in school-aged children.
Speaking as someone who does have an immunocompromised member of the household and also has a child who has had COVID recently, the impact was, and I cannot stress this enough, minimal, with no long COVID situation for any of us who've had it. My daughter was ill for a couple of days, if that. Obviously, she was off school for 10 days. And everyone else who's had it, again, mild sore throat, Omicron symptoms, effectively. So I don't know what the situation is in relation to what's just been said, because...
You should be getting the vaccine.
It's only one data point, isn't it? But I had no problem.
You got to think about risk-benefit analysis again. Is getting your child vaccinated likely to A, stop her contracting COVID, or B, stop her giving it to the immunocompromised person?
Well, both of those things have already happened.
Doesn't matter.
So, well, to prevent it from happening again, and also having minimal impact.
As far as I understand it, with the Omicron, it's pretty shit at stopping you getting it or passing it on.
Right.
Agreed? No.
I thought it was like that for all of them.
Well, yeah, but it's even worse for the Omicron.
Okay.
Because it's more
even more
transmissible.
mismatched. Well, it's more transmissible and it's more mismatched. The S protein that it encodes you to create. Because you can't have the AZ. It's got to be Pfizer or Moderna.
Yeah.
Now, we're saying that if you have a child who lives with an immunocompromised person, you should take the vaccine. Where is the benefit for the young person? The implication is that the young person should be used to protect the immunocompromised person in the household. And I'm not cool with that at all.
Human shield.
I think we've done enough to kids this last 2 years.
I think it's the wrong way round, isn't it?
There's virtually no benefit.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it?
For the child.
Yeah, that's right. There's no benefit to the
or
child.
for the immunocompromised, because you're still going to get it and pass it on.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is that, the JCVI didn't recommend it unless they were sort of immunocompromised themselves.
Yeah, the risk-benefit analysis is not there.
Yeah, so it's just like it's if you're fortunate enough to have like a healthy child with no underlying sort of conditions, there's virtually nil risk. Whereas, what is it? In whatever they were sort of saying in Canada, it was like 1 in 5,000, 1 in 6,500, something like that. Potentially, you're getting myocarditis. So. It's like a no-brainer. The
JCVI is independent from government. And when they didn't give the answer the government wanted, they tossed it to the CMO,
exactly.
who's a government appointee.
Yeah.
Sort this out, Chris. Sorry, Sir Chris, now. Thanks for sorting that out. We'll knight you in the new year.
Yeah.
It's not good. We shouldn't be throwing kids under the bus for adults.
And again, it's horrible. I'm sure younger people have died, but what is the average age of someone who dies from COVID?
82 in the UK.
I know.
It's just balmy. It's above the age of average lifespan.
And in America, I don't know if it's the same over here, but the average person has 4 comorbidities.
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 here.
Is it 3 here?
Yeah. So,
what counts as a comorbidity? Like the list is increasing.
Obesity, diabetes are the big ones, aren't they? They kind of come in hand in hand.
Dementia, I think.
Beards.
Cancer.
But there's a massive correlation with obesity because of the cytokines are made in the fat cells.
Yeah.
So if you have more fat cells and you're fat or obese
Cytokine
or whatever,
crash.
Yeah. So you basically poison yourself, don't you?
You start attacking yourself, your immune system. More important to take your vitamin D, because vitamin D is an immune regulator and may help prevent cytokine storms.
Not crash. It's the opposite.
Anyway, let's move on to Sweden, because I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure you believed me, Matt, about people in Sweden voluntarily chipping themselves like fucking dogs.
So I have a chip implant in my arm, and I have programmed the chip so that I have my COVID passport and on the chip. And the reason is that I always want to have it accessible. And when I read my chip, I just swipe my phone on the chip, and then I unlock, and it opens up. This is a PDF, which is my COVID passport. And this means that it's always accessible for me, or for anyone else, really, who wants to read me.
Read me? That's creepy.
That's
language.
kinky, isn't it?
It's just a good COVID citizen.
For example, if I go to the movies or go to a shopping center, then people will be able to check my status, even if I don't have my phone.
How do you update it with all the additional boosters?
It's on the app. So I'm guessing you send a message from the app to the chip.
What's the point?
It's extra steps.
Yeah, not recommended. Don't fucking do it. That was Hans Slobad. He's a Chief Disruption Officer at Epicenter, which is a tech firm in Sweden.
That's a fucking great job title.
Yeah, Chief Disruption Ops. Talking about disruptive technologies. €100 it is to get the chip.
That's quite cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the dog was cheaper. But yeah, €100 is quite cheap.
You get it to say anything.
I think you can do payments with it.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can open doors. To your own virtual prison cell.
These aren't the droids.
But you could. This is the other thing, isn't it? With stuff like this, and to a certain extent, even with like apps and your credit card, which does happen, I suppose, is that if the government makes a centralized database of these chips, they could just lock you out of your house, lock you out of your work, lock you out of your money, cancel your passport if that was ever put on it.
Some kind of social credit score.
Yeah, well, it would. And that was, you had to have it, or it was given to you at birth, and everything was uploaded onto that.
You get your salary paid into your arm.
It's already in existence.
What, when you get chipped as a baby?
No, apart from the social credit score.
Oh, well, yeah, in China.
Yeah.
So
say things that your dear leaders don't like, and you'll get a black mark on your social credit rating. And then it might be harder for you to get a loan.
Yeah.
Or health insurance. Or it might cost you more. Your premiums might go up. The interest you earn on your savings might go down.
Well, there's a little bit of that already kind of built into the banking system. If you're a dick with money, you ain't going to get a credit card because of your Experian dashboard.
Yeah. So I've amplified that to you said the wrong thing on Twitter.
Yeah.
And your Experian dashboard goes down.
On
credit rating agencies are like the first step. And it's getting more. You can see more and more stuff on YouTube, advertisements. What's it called? There's a few payment companies out there now. If you behave nicely, you'll get a discount. And it's social engineering.
That's like the driving thing, isn't it? The black box.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with the black box, yeah.
And you controls your driving.
Yeah, let us monitor you. What you're doing.
Don't
leave the house between the hours of 11 and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Be a good boy, and we'll charge you a bit less.
Exactly, yeah.
Smart meters, gas and electric.
Yeah.
Well, smart meters, smart thermostats. Whoa. You're what they call it? It's not...
Nest.
Nest, yeah.
Hive.
Yeah. Nest.
You have used your gas credits this week.
Yeah.
Your carbon credits. You are going to be charged an extra £30 per pound of carbon you burn.
Yeah.
Or CO2, whatever.
Or just restrict you.
Yeah.
No more gas for a week. Maybe you'll learn.
Oh, mate, it's weird because it doesn't sound as far-fetched.
No, it
anymore.
doesn't. It's weird, isn't it?
It's just coming, and it's all been written down. Oh gosh. Anyway, let's move on to Liverpool. The streets of Liverpool this week.
Oh yeah,
God!
I honestly thought this was photoshopping.
This is not a joke. Look at this photo. If you haven't seen these people around, this was the photo from Liverpool Street in London. They're going around. So as you guys remember, a year and a half ago, when the government introduced these set of new jobs. So the government are job creators. They're creating new jobs called marshals. They went around. I didn't really see many of them in London, but apparently some people saw around the country to go around and tell people how to live their lives. Now they got TV screens. It's literally like an episode of Black Mirror. If you have.
It was actually Lord Street in Liverpool where the photo was taken. He says it was in London, but it wasn't.
Well, I thought he said I thought he referenced a picture from 18 months ago on Liverpool Street. Maybe I misinterpreted.
According to, I don't know if it was The Guardian or where I found it, but that was taken from Lord Street. Oh, it was the Echo, Liverpool Echo.
Yeah.
So according to them, might be fake news, that photo was taken on Lord Street in Liverpool.
What I found surprising was there was 3 of them together. I thought they spread out.
Yeah. Social distancing, mate.
Yeah. There should be like other ends of the street.
Only one of them's wearing a mask.
What would you...
Outside?
Well, it can never be too safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
The other thing as well is, what would you rather face? A COVID marshal or a chugger?
What's
a
chugger?
A charity mugger.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes wait for the kids.
Yeah. Which one? And then I've noticed with the chuggers, they are far more organised in that you'll see one, say, on this side of the road, on the left-hand side of the road as you're facing, and then you think, right, fuck, going up to him, I'll just cross over, and then just ahead on the other side, there's another one. And they do it on purpose, alternating all the way up the high street They used to do it all the time down.
So it's a classic Alexander the Great pincer move.
Pow, pow, pow,
and then
pow.
Break through the centre, and then the cavalry comes on the west flank.
So they're like kind of they're sort of like zigzagged if you were to draw a line. Wow. So you like if you were to cross and miss one, you'd walk into another one. So you have to walk past one of them.
I think people say no a lot less in modern society. If you learn how to say no, it's quite easy to navigate the chuggers because you just say no down the middle of the road. Just say no to them. But I think there are a lot of people who feel compelled
politeness
to discuss anything with anyone.
Yeah,
like Phil.
I just think it's mad.
You know, the whole thing is just mad.
Mad.
It's weird. The screens.
The screens is totally weird. I mean,
It's
how long
pointless,
before
isn't
someone
it?
hacks them to show something much better?
Like what?
I don't know. A blue movie?
Oh, bit of blue for it dance.
Bit of blue. It's a bit dangerous. That you could put something on there. Like, I don't know. A meme.
Yeah, Doge.
Doge. Yeah.
Doge meme. Shall we move on to boosters? Netherlands announced plan to give people up to 6 doses of COVID vaccine.
At once?
Every 3 months. Hugo de Jong, Health Minister of the Netherlands, has indicated the country could be preparing for another 3 coronavirus booster vaccines. De Jong wrote a letter to his country's parliament Wednesday suggesting the Netherlands should consider additional rounds of booster vaccines to fight new variants, with 2 of these in 2022, so that's every 6 months, and another shot in 2023.
Just put it in the water.
In the letter, de Jong wrote, "Certainly, because only half of a regular vaccine is needed for the booster dose of Moderna, we now have sufficient vaccines for the current booster campaign, and there is ample basis for possible extra booster rounds in the second quarter and the autumn of 2022 and 2023.
I thought Sean Connery was dead.
Some 35 million doses of the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine have already been ordered for 2022 and 2023, as well as 10.5 million doses of Moderna, 840,000 doses of Novavax, and 10,000 doses of Valneva, if it is approved for use in the EU. An extra 5.8 million doses of BioNTech Pfizer have also been ordered via the EU purchasing strategy. So that's 35 million of Pfizer. Netherlands' population is 17 million.
Stop buying vaccines.
Mass formation. It's part of the deal. There is one solution. This is how they work.
Yeah, it's mad. Like that's
only one solution.
I think the biggest thing I took away from that Peter McCulloch thing was like the lack of home treatment and like, you know, just giving people ivermectin and just seeing if it reduces the amount of times people go into hospital.
They're even restricting monoclonal antibodies now in the States. Can't get them.
Yeah, they said that, didn't he? I mean, that. When I was listening to some other people, you know, with their other opinions on it, it's not the right. I suppose Peter McCulloch would say it's not the right new technology. But that's I believe, I'm not an expert on it at all. That's quite a brand new thing, isn't it? This monoclonal antibodies thing.
Yeah, and it works. It works. Apparently, it's really good. It's for people who are in dire straits.
Yeah,
but you know, we've got the new ones now. We've got the Merck.
What's that?
The
drug.
Pill.
Is it a drug?
The Merck pill and the Pfizer pill. The Merck pill is fucking really sketch. I mean, there's chance that could like rewrite your DNA and stuff. I mean, oh god, stay away. And the Pfizer's like, look at the people who are excluded from taking it. You know, it's like remdesivir. It fucks your kidneys. It fucks everything else.
Right.
It's like, God.
Isn't a milder Omicron strain the worst thing that could happen to these policy decision makers and the pharmaceutical companies themselves?
No, because they'll make sure the vaccine takes credit for it.
Yeah, or like they did with lockdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing as well, I'm quite interested to see.
You got boosted now. That's what did it.
Yeah, you're getting quite good at that one.
Oh, it's good, that one. Yeah.
But I'm quite interested to see what happens with, you know, whatever it's like 200,000 cases a day, isn't it, or something at the moment. So what actually happens with hospitalizations and deaths, whether it goes like ridiculous or whether it just we have a bit of a normal winter peak.
Well, they're already saying that the reason for stress on the NHS now is more about staff absences because people are isolating and having to stay away from work.
And and in April it'll be to do with people getting fired as well.
Yeah,
the vaccine.
When the vaccine mandate comes in.
There's not enough. Is there enough unvaccinated people to determine how bad a specific variant is now?
Yes, there is a big enough control group.
Right, well, that's where you want to be looking to see whether the Omicron is or isn't less dangerous. And the next variant, if that's less than Omicron, eventually you're going to get loads and loads of people testing positive and no one being ill.
Is anybody actually looking into unvaccinated people and how they fare?
No, and I think that's because what Phil just mentioned, allowing the vaccine to take credit for the dip in infection or the dip in.
There was something came out from Norway yesterday, I think it was yesterday, where I might be slightly off on the numbers, but I think it was 87% of new infections were at least doubly vaccinated.
Yeah.
And the population of the percentage of the population vaccinated was 72 or 74. Might be nothing to see there. Don't know. Early days. But
the argument though is you get infected, breakthrough infections, but your symptoms are milder because you've had the vaccines.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's where the focus needs to be on the people who haven't had a vaccine.
And have had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I should have come round before Christmas. We could have tested the theory.
But it seems to be more to do with age and comorbidities, doesn't it? Do you not think how you fare?
They've said that since day one. It's
15 million doses till freedom. The top two groups, the over 70s and the immunocompromised.
Yeah.
That was this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't pan out, did it? But
So I'm quite interested to see anyway how it pans out with these new Nightingale overflow places, whether they actually get used this time, first and foremost, and whether or not, because we haven't sort of followed suit in like locking down. Have they locked down now in Scotland effectively, and are they banning? Did they not ban Christmas?
They cancelled Hogmanay, didn't they?
Yeah, and is it not limited household mixing or something? No.
There's never, ever going to be any shortage of the vaccine in any situation. Like 10, 12 years ago when I was in the game, we could churn out from one site 800,000 doses of a vaccine a day. So there's 15 million. There's not going to be an end to it in terms of there's not enough vaccine for everyone to be vaccinated. So there's 15 million to end, and then but we can make a million more a day. So there's as it keeps getting made, governments are buying it and putting it in people's arms, I guess, and that's I don't see an end to that while it's a viable business model.
Yeah. It's the most successful pharmaceutical product ever, the Pfizer vaccine.
Wow,
bigger than Oxy.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a good story. I enjoyed this one. Woman self-isolates in plane toilet for 5 hours after COVID positive test mid-flight. A US woman was told how she confined herself to an airplane toilet cubicle after testing positive for COVID halfway through a flight.
Why did she test herself halfway through?
Questions.
Fucking mass formation. Nuts. Marissa Fortio, a teacher. There you go. Teacher.
Fuck.
A teacher. No offense, teachers. Marissa Fortio, a teacher.
Got a pretty close one.
No, he's wised up and gone.
Oh, right. Okay.
Got out of the system. A teacher from Michigan said her throat began to hurt halfway through the trip, so she went to the bathroom to perform a rapid COVID test, which confirmed she was infected. I just took my rapid test and brought it in the bathroom, and within what felt like 2 seconds, there were 2 lines indicating a positive test, Fortio told NBC News. There's 150 people on the flight, and my biggest fear was giving it to them and maybe killing someone. I added that bit. Sharing the news over TikTok, Fortio posted a short video from inside the cramped quarters, writing, POV, you test positive for COVID while over the Atlantic Ocean. Shout out to Iceland Air for my VIP quarantine quarters.
I'd been desperate for a shit knocking on that door.
That's what I thought. What happened to the other passengers for 5 hours?
Yeah. Well, there's normally more than one toilet, isn't there? Especially if it's a big plane. But I'd be so mad. I'm just thinking, well, I'm going to have a poo now. I always need, well, not always actually, but sometimes after the meal, something gets things going, doesn't it?
It's a good job she had a spare test in her purse. She must carry on around with her all day, every day.
Do you not?
Why? I don't know why you would do it in the middle of a flight.
No. Well, because her throat hurt.
Her throat hurt. Yeah.
I suppose there's that.
She doesn't want to kill anyone.
Social responsibility, isn't there? That kind of thing.
Don't kill grandma.
I know. Yeah.
I remember from last year.
I tell you what,
look him in the eyes. Look him in the eyes and tell him you did a COVID test on that flight from Chicago to Iceland.
She just refuses to get COVID. My 81-year-old mother, or 80 she is, I think. 81.
That's the key.
Year.
Just say no. Say no more often.
She just didn't stop through the first bit when I was actually disturbed by what was happening. She just refused. No, I'm still going to go out.
Seen it all before.
And she hasn't.
The first pandemic we've had in the last 78 years. She's seen it all before.
I think she might have been for one or two PCR, maybe one PCR test. It came back negative. She just.
Is it an anal swab?
I fucking hope not, for their sake. And so I mean, she's never had it. I mean, her knee hurts, so she might have long COVID, I suppose.
COVID knee.
She got a knee and her back hurts, and she got a bad blister that smells. So I find it difficult, with the amount of sort of mixing that she does. She goes to church every week, sometimes multiple times.
That's what's doing it.
That she's just
got JC in her corner.
Because she's just never got it. We know.
I wonder if there is a psychological component to all this, and that if once you've been propagandized and your anxiety is raised, your stress levels were raised. I think there is a correlation between stress, anxiety, and a weakening of your immune system.
Well, there is a known one with
absolutely.
cortisol.
Yeah. So I think the people like me and your mum who say, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just going to get on with my life, I'm not even worried about it. I've been trying to get the fucking thing for 2 years. But you see other people who've answered the door to me in marigolds and a fucking practically homemade hazmat suit. I think, you're that fucking paranoid. You're probably going to get it and die because you're that stressed and so anxious about it.
Yeah. You didn't tell him that on a doorstep, did you?
It's like, it's not good for you being like that and feeling like that.
No, it's not.
So stress is the number one predictor for life expectancy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so turn off the news and just listen to us.
We cannot guarantee a long life.
Well, maybe if you put a Focus Chi request in, we could nudge you over 100.
It's better than the Pfizer. 100% efficiency.
100% efficiency, 50% of the time.
Not 95%.
No.
Like that shitty vaccine started out as. Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Big story. There's a big story this week.
Big man ting.
Ghislaine Maxwell was the socialite whose manners and magnetism attracted princes and presidents. But it was those same qualities she used to ensnare girls from troubled backgrounds, teenagers whom she served up for abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. Her siblings were in court as the verdict was read out. They know she'll almost certainly spend the rest of her life in prison.
What do you think that means for Andy Pandy?
Depends if she squawks.
Plea deal?
Yeah, plea deals, potentially.
Has she not been sentenced yet? I've not really looked into this at all.
No, it's just guilty verdict this week.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
sentencing will be in a bit.
Looking at 30 years, maybe?
30?
Yeah.
Wow.
But who knows, with a plea deal, that could go down to, I don't know, 10? 7 years with good behaviour?
Yeah, does she have money still?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think that, the quote is, I suppose, they've gone after the pimps now, but what about all the the Johns, all the punters who've been going to Epstein Island and doing these horrific things with youngsters. They need to face the music, and potentially, if Andrew's one of them, he's going to have to. They've asked for documented proof that he can't sweat, that he can't provide. Top endocrinologists have suggested that potentially could be a fabricated story. What was his excuse? That he had an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands,
and he no longer sweats. Yeah. And what was the sweat thing again? Why was that a big thing? Can you remember?
There was some report of him sweating over what's her name? Virginia Gouffre, yeah, as part of that. And his response on that interview was, "Oh no, I can't sweat," because
he just went nuclear on that one, didn't he?
Absolutely. That is the biggest car crash TV I think of our times.
This woman says that this sweaty man raped her. I can't sweat.
I know, John. Focus on the sweating.
That was our first venture into news deconstruction.
It was,
Do you remember? I had 22 clips from that interview.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That was edited down.
Yeah. It was awful, wasn't it?
It was incredible. TV.
Yeah.
Incredible TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't say that very often, Phil. But you're right.
No. Well, it's just extraordinary, wasn't it? Extraordinary interview, and he sort of completely went off script. He wasn't sanctioned to do that interview by the palace. He went out of his way to make himself look like a fucking prick.
And imagine what his subsequent lawyers would have been thinking, or his lawyer at the time would have been thinking, when he's been sort of implicated in this fucking international crime nonsense. That and he's gone on and said all those different things. Basically,
what do you think will happen in the next couple of months then? In terms of this, she'll get sentenced and sent down. Do you think she'll talk? There'll be I would imagine there's a lot of rich, powerful people who will be very scared that she is going to talk.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself.
That's what I was heading towards. Do you think there might be another incident? It can't be after Epstein.
It seems hard to believe. Maybe. I mean, she's intelligence, isn't she?
If she did go for a plea deal and got 10 years, so she ends up leaving prison. I think at the moment she's down for potentially 30, so she wouldn't leave prison.
I think she'll get about 17, 18, so she'll be out in 7 or 8.
Right. Well, then, if she stays quiet...
Yeah, stay quiet.
She'll stay quiet.
Get back on it. She's not an idiot.
Do you not think they'll sort of make an example of her in the same way that Weinstein, did he not get 18 years, which was like twice as much as anyone previous?
No, I don't think they will make an example of her. No, I think she'll... Do
you think she's too connected?
Yeah. Yeah, I think she'll get a good deal, I think.
Bringing it back to the dope sick thing we're talking about in the middle, that was quite interesting what they were sort of saying in that. And I bet the books would be good to read that it's based on. I can't remember the name.
It's based on a book?
Yeah, it's called, but I think the book's called Dope Sick. Would be a good read. And you sort of talk about, is it Mark Cuomo? Was he the Attorney General? Is he Mark Cuomo? His brother, Anthony and Mark? No?
I don't know Anthony. I don't know Mark. There's Anthony Cuomo.
And what's the other
one? He was a governor, wasn't he, Anthony?
Yeah. Chris Cuomo is the NBC or CNN anchor.
Right, okay. I'm sure there's a Cuomo. I just, because of the name, I wonder if... I just assumed it was one of the brothers.
Right.
And he was like the Attorney General or something. And they were basically saying all the time, there's no appetite for it to be prosecuted, this that you're bringing forward, basically. It was all coming from like the big cheesy's office.
Yeah.
Don't go forward this, you won't get anything out of it.
And he forced it.
Basically. But anyway, yeah.
Even that was a deal. It was a bankruptcy deal, wasn't it? So Purdue Pharma are now no longer. They had to pay $4.5 billion, I think.
Yeah. Eventually, that wasn't the first settlement, was it? The first settlement was only $500 million.
As part of the deal, though, they
family got off.
You couldn't.
Immunity.
Yeah, you didn't have to accept liability. But apparently that's been overturned in a court recently, like 18th of December.
Right.
So it's still going on. It's still super interesting. Definitely recommend that to any eavesdroppers who've not watched it.
That family, even if it does go to the wire, they will have so much stuff squirreled away in the Cayman Islands and other places.
Oh, yeah,
they
still
will be
super
fine.
rich.
They'll be fine.
Artworks everywhere.
Yeah, they said that they personally they wouldn't ever go bankrupt. It's the business, basically. They paid for it all.
But they're going to pursue the family. They're going to continue to pursue the family. But even so, it's not like they're going to go to jail.
No.
These people don't go to jail.
No, I know, yeah.
No, this is what's quite interesting about the Ghislaine incident, because, she's been fingered.
So, I mean, that what all this is like, serious happenings. And the Purdue thing is serious happenings as well, but it's almost like the butterfly effect. So it's these little tiny lies, changed graphs, like a logarithmic scale on a graph rather than the standard one, that they were using to persuade doctors to prescribe this drug. And it was just little tiny things like that led to, millions and millions of deaths.
Data manipulation.
Absolutely. And at the time, it would have been probably thought of as, that's just a little tweak and it makes our product look better, so let's push it out there for marketing. Might not even have been, it would have probably been signed off by the family at some point, but
probably
I doubt they were fully involved in that, doctrine of the data and stuff. But still, they're implicated by ownership.
There used to be a website, I don't know what it's called now, but you could look at the lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies in the States over the last 20 years, and the criminal, they're worse than the banks. Worse than the banks when it comes to negligence and corporate malfeasance.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It holds true.
Anyway, going back to Ghislaine, the